Welcome to Monday's TimesCast. Low interest rates have pumped billions into companies in an attempt to spur job growth, but it hasn't worked.
So there's this cheap money out there, almost free money for the big corporations that can borrow.
American travelers to Europe face a new terror threat warning.
Ordinary citizens are often the sort of last line of defense against a terrorist attack.
And from the science desk, a look back at the discovery of insulin.
One of the first of the great medical breakthroughs in the 20th century was this discovery of insulin.
David Gillen and Graham Bowley discuss how American companies have amassed large amounts of cash, yet still aren't hiring.
What exactly is going on? I mean, the corporations seem to be very cash rich, but they're going out into the bond markets and they're borrowing and borrowing even more money. Why?
They're doing it because they can. The government's pushed interest rates right down to the floor. So there's this cheap money out there, almost free money for the big corporations that can borrow. Not every company can. And so they're building up cash. They've been doing it since 2008, given the time when markets froze. And so this is sort of rational behavior. But the government wants them to invest and to start to hire and get the economy going. That's not happening yet.
Well, what can we do? How can we get out of this?
They're looking around for ways to do it. They're going to start perhaps buying more treasury assets again and putting even more money into the economy, which will be an even bigger opportunity for companies to borrow even more cash. Another way might be to, maybe we should see the pressure that they're bringing on the Chinese to relax their currency policy as a way to stimulate exports.
Right, so if the exchange rate goes more favorably toward American corporations, the idea would be that they can sell their goods overseas.
This will stimulate American exports and be this sort of extra valve that they can turn to. And it's a sign of the pressure that American policymakers are under, that they're looking at all these options. Lower interest rates, more cash into the economy, cheaper American exports. They do need to quickly get the economy growing again.
And from Washington, Scott Shane on the value of the most recent terror warnings for travelers.
Some travelers found it so vague that it really wasn't useful in guiding their behavior. It didn't specify any particular country or city, just said Europe, and it said that terrorists attack public transportation and tourist infrastructure, which people really already know. The defense of this kind of vague travel alert is, first of all, that the government doesn't want to be accused of withholding from the public information it has about a threat. And intelligence officials believe that this is really a credible threat, even if they don't have the details. And secondly, counterterrorism officials recognize that ordinary citizens are often the sort of last line of defense against a terrorist attack. And as on Times Square in May, or on that Detroit-bound airliner on Christmas Day, it was actually ordinary citizens who intervened to try to stop a terrorist attack, and they hope to encourage that kind of thing in Europe.
And finally, David Corcoran looks at a new exhibit exploring the development of insulin.
We're here at the New York Historical Society for the opening of the exhibition called Breakthrough, the dramatic story of the discovery of insulin.
One of the first of the great medical breakthroughs in the 20th century was this discovery of insulin, which is not a cure. It's a tool, but it's a cure, not a cure.
What exactly is insulin?
Insulin's a hormone that's produced by the pancreas. It's important in the body because it helps them digest carbohydrates, sugar. And without it, the digestion can't happen. The kidneys are injured, heart problems develop, other kinds of problems. So it's an essential thing. What we call diabetes, yes.
Why this exhibition here?
Well, New York was one of the largest areas of diabetics in the country at the time, and also what turned out to be the most famous first patient of insulin, Elizabeth Hughes, was a New Yorker.
So what was the breakthrough?
Well, the breakthrough was really a series of discoveries. The first one being how to exactly get insulin out of an animal pancreas, in this case a dog's pancreas, then how to develop it into sufficient quantities to test, and finally from that how to develop into sufficient quantities for people to take in the United States and all over the world.
Another aspect of this was how to train them to train doctors to administer insulin and really to live with insulin, to live with diabetes. Well, just as diabetes was an epidemic proportions in 1920 or 1921 when they discovered insulin, it has, if anything, grown even more important and more responsible for deaths in the city of New York in particular. I think the New York death rate is still the highest in the country, but it is spread around and it's associated with obesity, it's associated with a number of other both ailments that we don't really know the cause yet.
Join us again tomorrow for another edition of TimesCast.